Hello and welcome. You're watching Hypnotherapy, Medicine for the Mind TV. I'm your host, Alves, board certified consulting hypnotist. I've been in business in Fall River since 1999. In the world of hypnotherapy, whatever your mind can conceive, your body can achieve. Today's topic of discussion is hypnosis and sports performance. What does all professional athletes from Jack Nicklaus to Tiger Woods to Chicago White Sox, LA Lakers, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan all have in common? Sports hypnosis. Sports performance, as every serious sports person knows, is as much as what's going on in your head as what's going on in your body. We've all seen top-notch golfers lose their game for years on end, or sprinters lose their critical hundredths of a second to make the difference between first place and second place. Sports performance hypnosis is solidly based on the latest psychological research into what distinguishes the top performers from the rest and how you get that edge. Sports hypnosis sessions will help you fine-tune your game so that whatever field of sports you engage in, you get the very best for yourself, physically, mentally, emotionally. You learn how to cultivate and maintain the attitudes and determination that take you to the next level. And after all, as a sport person, you spend long enough time training your body. Why not spend a little time on your brain? Got a mental block or performance anxiety? Do you perform with ease and precision during practice, but choke during the competition? Did you own a skill, but for some reason now have a mental block performing it? Does your coach tell you to just get it out of your head? Do you practice and practice, but aren't getting to the next level? Were you injured and now find it difficult to come back? Once a competitive athlete gets stuck, getting unstuck requires an intervention. Hypnosis is the fastest and the most effective way to get rid of mental blocks, overcome any fears holding you back, learn to block out distractions, get mastery over your pressure, let go of past mistakes, and your negative self-talk and bad habits. Boost your motivation and determination. Increase your focus and concentration. Get back to loving your sport again. Training more is not the answer. To achieve optimal performance and build lasting confidence, the answer lies within your mind, not training harder. So many athletes think if they just practice more, find an expert to teach them some new techniques, it will overcome their performance anxiety or mental block. Most often, it's simply not true. It starts in the mind. All lasting change has to happen first in the mind. Hours of practice or that new technique won't fix your mental block or get rid of the fear. Through hypnosis, athletes connect to the power of the subconscious mind. Once connected, you can improve your technical skills and eliminate any doubt, hesitation, stress, anxiety, or fear, which makes a difference between coming in first or second place. Get the competitive edge. Serious athletes are often determined to find out what will give them that edge, as well as perform to the highest potential. Hypnosis helps athletes quickly improve their skills, fine-tune a technique, and develop intense focus using the power of the mind. Hypnosis will give you the level of self-belief and confidence you need to become unstoppable in your sport and excel in ways you may never have thought possible. Are you recovering from an injury? Another way that hypnosis can help competitive athletes in dealing with pain and injuries. Learning to disassociate from the pain can help you better cope and accelerate the recovery time so that you can return to practice and competition more quickly. The mind-body connection. Your team is about to play in the state championships, and everybody knows how important their performance means to the team. Most of them feel an internal battle brewing in the pits of their stomachs. Negative thoughts are filling their minds. Oh, what if I don't play my best? Or the coach is counting on me. Or I don't want to let my teammates down. Or my parents are watching and I don't want to look over it after I miss a shot and look at my father's folded arms and facial expressions. There's a vast amount of research that shows that a large percentage of our self-talk is negative and self-defeating. Every thought that passes through our minds immediately impacts every cell in our bodies, almost instantaneously, through chemical and electronic changes. This means that the large muscles of the legs and arms, so important in performance, are impacted directly and instantly by our inner thoughts. Don't miss is often followed by a miss. Or what if I lose the next game is often followed by losing the next game. Why do you suppose so many of your players do much better in practice than important matches? The answer is they engage in negative self-talk when everything is on the line, not during practice. The good news is that these self-fulfilling prophecies that most athletes engage in are all avoidable. Hypnosis, the ultimate secret weapon. Sports hypnotists often teach athletes how to control their inner dialogue and self-talk. So instead of developing negative, self-fulfilling prophecies, they can actually develop positive ones. This is an excellent strategy that every player has to learn. The problem with it is that poor habits, especially thinking habits, are hard to break. And when the player is stressed during an important match, there's a high likelihood that that old negative thinking habit will once again rear its ugly head. This is where sports hypnosis has a tremendous advantage over other methods of helping players modify their thinking and behavior during crunch time. The athlete is trained to focus on his or her concentration in such a way that they will not be distracted by negative thoughts. On the contrary, only positive thoughts and images will occur. This starts the evening before the game, where the athlete falls asleep, visualizing the perfect game and how they overcome every obstacle that comes their way. It is used prior to the game to prepare the athlete to relax and to focus on the field of play without allowing distractions to interfere. And this includes distracting thoughts. Ultimately, the athlete can be taught self-hypnosis, which they can use during changeovers. Sports history abounds with fabulous examples of athletes using hypnotic and self-hypnotic techniques to overcome adversity and enhance their performance. Sports hypnosis experts have taught hypnotic techniques to athletes literally in all sports to enhance such important dynamics as intensity, focus, consistency, concentration, mental toughness, and anxiety control, while providing players with the best equipment. Game strategy and conditions are all key elements of success. Experience with sports hypnosis can be the most valuable tool you'll have in your toolbox. The mind-body connection is so very important in your performance. The more we learn about the brain, the more we find that to be true. A recent segment on the History Channel explains it in a very scientific way.
The more we learn about the brain, the more it informs every aspect of our lives, including professional sports.
Sports performance is all about the brain. but it wasn't like that all the time. For the longest part of history of sports, people didn't care about the brain. They would consider an athlete a good player if they had good muscle definition and they were very coordinated. Just within the last 10 years, we think that about 50% of all sports performance, and sometimes the most important part about elite performance, is related to brain functioning.
Now, athletes have caught on to how important the brain is to their performance on the field.
90% is mental. It's a tough game, you know. You really have to have control of your mind to play this game.
So how does the brain improve the game?
Almost all of sports is dynamic and requires millisecond to millisecond decision making. And if you miss it by a small percentage, you miss the putt. You're a tenth of a second too slow. Your shot falls off the rim. That's that little differentiation between super world class and good.
At a basic level, it's about hand-eye coordination and practice, practice, practice. And there's no better place to see this than at the Cirque du Soleil, where performers must practice constantly. We use our frontal lobes to learn how to carry out an activity. But the area of the brain that benefits most from practice is the cerebellum, at the back of the brain. It helps to think of the brain as an old house with new rooms slowly added over time. The brainstem is the basement because it evolved first. The cerebellum came next.
It's an old part of the brain, sort of set up off the first floor in the basement. It's almost entirely responsible for movement, complicated sequencing of movements.
The cerebellum sends out signals to the 100 billion nerve cells in our bodies, which in turn tell the muscles what we want them to do.
The frontal lobe is monitoring the activity, but most of the time gets out of the way and allows the cerebellum and the rest of the brain to engage in this behavior that's been practiced over and over and over again.
Scientists think that the frontal lobe simply cannot keep up with the speed of information processing necessary to perform a high-level skill, which is why the cerebellum takes over. It's procedural memory, the same kind Clive Wearing uses to play the piano.
And it's the idea that you can go into a filing cabinet and pick out a motor memory that you've already practiced.
And experts now know why practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the better the cerebellum becomes at knowing exactly which nerves and muscles to trigger each time.
In the sports psychology, there's suggestions that it takes 10,000 hours of deliberate practice in order to achieve the level of expertise.
Such extreme levels of ability may actually lead to memory within the muscle itself, guiding a sequence of contractions and relaxations. But the brain is still essential.
You damage the brain, there is very little activity. Now, of course, you need an intact body, you need physiology that works. In basketball, it helps to be tall. In racing horses, it helps to be small. But every of those athletes has a brain that has to be synchronized with athletic activity.
But beyond practice and having the right body type, the brain plays another vital role in sports.
Just imagine a weightlifter who's trying to lift an amazing amount of weights. They have to be extremely pumped up.
The Navy SEALs use a breathing technique to calm down, whereas athletes need to vary their level of excitement. Sports scientists call this process arousal modulation.
We think of arousal modulation as the volume button of the brain.
Once again, it's the amygdala in the limbic system that controls our emotional response. In this instance, it gets us psyched up to compete. Back when the brain was evolving, it's how early man would get ready for the hunt. But the amygdala needs to be triggered. One simple way is by using sensory stimulation, such as cheering and clapping.
You can control it externally through loud noises, by slapping a person. Why? Because those sensory mechanisms go into the first floor of the brain. So you'll see in sports a lot of times, People using this intuitively, a lot of noise. Come on, come on, come on, go, go, go. Athletes need to get themselves into a position where when the game starts, they're at the right level of arousal. Okay, because basketball is a contact sport. You got to push out. You have to fight for the rebounds. And it's almost a simulated war. Once you're in a higher arousal level and you got to come down, it's just as difficult as it is to go up. It might even be more difficult. All of a sudden the game stops and they have to shoot a free throw.
The player needs to turn from pumped to quietly focused in seconds. Inside the player's brain, the frontal lobes must quickly muffle the amygdala response to calm emotions, relax the body, breathe slower and lower heart rate, so that he stands a better chance of making the shot. This is tough because the player's body might be too pumped, or the frontal lobes might be distracted by other nervous thoughts like the fear of failure. If these thoughts are strong enough, they could feed back to the limbic system, trigger the fear response. This would then make it extremely difficult to focus on performing a complicated action well. It's a situation experts call performance anxiety.
Performance anxiety is the largest culprit of poor athletic performance. And the successful athlete has complete control over that.
It is tough to get your heart rate down and get focused and get concentrated on what you have to do, because everything is so chaotic that all you want to do is go as fast as you can. You just need to relax and just try to stay cool.
Stay away from that wide line, Graham. Stay away from that wide line.
Get it wrong, and the consequences can be fatal.
If your concentration slips for any moment of time, most often it would result in a crash. Top speeds can be up around 230 miles an hour. And at those speeds, I mean, anything can happen. And when you hit the wall, you hit it hard.
Few sports demonstrate performance anxiety better than golf.
People love golf because you'll see a world-class athlete miss a 2-foot putt to win a major tournament and lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. Putting requires a very low volume of activity. It's a small motor movement, and the frontal lobes probably should be turned off. We know that Tiger Woods can do this because he has done it many times. But what is it about his brain that he's able to put the ball into the hole? What we found is the brain can either help you succeed in this athletic activity or it can help you fail. And we think Tiger Woods has found a way to succeed most of the time because of his ability to modulate his own brain functioning.
Scientists can't scan Tiger Woods' brain in action. He would need to lie motionless, which would make playing golf impossible. So instead, they must make an educated guess.
Because he's blinking so little during a putt, we think that his anxiety is very low. Because eye blinking is usually related to anxiety. So he's very relaxed, like a drowsy state, a drowsy, sleepy level, but yet enough concentration that you can focus on the task.
Athletes call this special feeling being in the zone, when their movements seem to flow without conscious effort. It is the supreme combination of practice involving the cerebellum, concentration of the frontal lobes, and low anxiety of the amygdala within the limbic system.
Zone, it's very hard to get into. I really feel like if I can control my breath and I can get it as slow as possible, that'll slow down my heart. As soon as that happens, I feel like I get total consciousness of everything. All 5 senses are working the best they could possibly work.
Experts think the brain gets so focused, it's somehow able to block or ignore any irrelevant input. Brain and body begin working in perfect sync.
Athletes and everybody else, for that matter, all want to be in that zone, and there's something special about it. Everything gets aimed at the one task at hand, and when you do that, incredible things can happen. You have a real clarity of thought and decision making.
When I'm in that moment, everything around me is slow and I can control what I'm thinking, I can control what I look at, I can control what thoughts enter my mind, and in turn that gives me the greatest chance for success.
Athletes overcome fears with sports hypnosis. Sports hypnosis is the mental game every coach, parent, and player talks about. There's a quote by Yogi Berra that says, "Think. How the hell are you going to think and hit that same time?" Or the classic, 90% of this game is 50% mental. What Yogi was trying to say was that we don't want to think about how we hit the ball. Imagine all that goes into this. How you stand with your feet a certain distance apart, how you pivot your foot, turn your hips, the angle of the bat, where you focus your eyes, the length of arm extension and the arc of the swing, and find the moment makes contact with the bat. Now you add in velocity, and if you're lucky, it'll propel the ball over the green monster at Fenway. And guess what? While you thought about all that 96 mile per hour pitch is now in the catcher's mitt. Want to rethink again? The pitcher is already winding up. The subconscious mind is where we harbor our automatic responses. Hypnosis is the bridge between conditioned mental responses and physiological outcomes. As such, it can affect the success of these outcomes. In all of its automated responses, the subconscious mind is the connection between the conditioned mental response and a muscular action. That is what a sports hypnotist can help you. So when and how does this mental game deteriorate and an athlete's past abilities change? How does one recognize if there is a problem? Many athletes are able to bounce back and return to previous successful athletic performances after an issue, but some are plagued with problems long-term, such as anticipatory anxiety, fears, phobias. To triggers for those can be elusive, even to the athlete. Some of my sports hypnosis clients I've met will know exactly why they've come to see me. Some don't know where the issues stem from, but they all know they aren't happy. They're not happy with their performance. They also know that at one time they played their sport well and realize they aren't playing the same level or with the same intensity or confidence anymore. A sports performance hypnotherapy specialist needs to examine the possibility of past actions the athlete may be bringing forward into the current and possible future events. Athletes may realize themselves or be told that they aren't making plays they once made. They feel they're choking under pressure or failing to execute important plays or missing the goal. They might be an amateur that has been taken off the first line or pro status has been downgraded. What is certain, they know they have it in them to be better. Many times, sports performance anticipatory anxiety issues can be evident and often inherently felt. The athlete may or may not know what their triggers are, but know they don't want to feel what can ultimately manifest as a panic attack the closer they get to the event or time of performance. The athlete may begin the process as far out as the ride home from the last event or as close as seconds before the next event begins. Sports anxiety, fears, and phobias are just as common as issues that surround our everyday life. Amateurs and pros come across a vast amount of pressure and can be susceptible as anyone else. is a sports hypnotherapist that can help distinguish between the issues and start a process that can reprogram the subconscious mind for a desired outcome without the anxiety and the fear, and can help form a new reaction for a successful outcome. Most of us want to achieve the highest possible level of performance at what we do, whether it be in our career, our relationships, our hobbies, or even our personal development. An opposing impediment to that goal is performance anxiety, choking up just when free-flowing confidence is most needed. An hypnotherapist can address the next step up beyond treating performance anxiety, and that is performance enhancement. There is a growing body of research related to this field, and hypnosis is center stage in much of it. We have discussed the usefulness of hypnosis in enhancing performance to optimal levels, specifically in the realm of sports. However, the same principles apply in performing arts, academic testing, or seeking mastery in any endeavor. Find your personal zone of optimal function and develop ways of maintaining yourself in that zone, especially when the stakes are the highest. Use the keen insight of your subconscious mind to discern obstacles and to mentally rehearse the experience of peak performance, effortless and exuberant. Well, my time is up. Thank you for yours. Have a good night tonight and a better day tomorrow. And remember, whatever your mind can conceive, your body can achieve.